Hello and welcome to another episode of the Motherhood video series. I'm really excited to show you another episode today. I had Louise drop by for a chat today. She is a mother of two. She's got two beautiful little girls and she's only 4 months postpartum with her second beautiful baby. Today she shares with me her journey into basically from 1 to 2 babies and the struggles that she's had, the challenges that she's faced having an extra baby and, you know, remembering what it was like having a baby and having a toddler as well to contend with and look after. It's a really great episode and one that I highly recommend anyone who's pregnant or considering another baby to watch. There is a happy ending at the end, which is good. It's not all doom and gloom. So as I say, snuggle up, grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, grab a glass of water and enjoy this episode. Louise is a devoted wife to Cameron and a proud mummy to her 3-year-old Giselle and 4-month-old Florence and their baby Ramel. Along with the journey of motherhood, Louise is the founder of West Assured Mums, an online support group for families, and a very proud and passionate founder of Friend in Me, who hosts social inclusion events for children who feel lonely, isolated, or may have been bullied and not been to a party before. Louise is devoted to changing the stigma and making sure that no child is left behind. Hello, Louise. Thank you for coming on today. I'm really excited to have you on and to talk about your journey from 1 baby to having 2 babies. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you for having me.
No problems. I'm so glad that you're here today to talk to us. And you've only got a little wee baby. She's only 4 months old. So I really appreciate you jumping on today to take out, you know, your time, because I understand how challenging and sleep deprived you may be right now. So thanks for jumping on. You look fabulous, by the way.
It's the concealer, you see. It hides everything.
So let's just start from the beginning. Let's just start from, you know, when you were pregnant and what you were, you know, did you plan your next baby? You know, how old was your first baby? Let's start from there.
Absolutely. So I've got Giselle, who's 3, almost 3.5, and I got pregnant when she was probably just over 2. She was, and when I had Giselle, I went into it very, I was very relaxed about the pregnancy. I had a beautiful pregnancy with Giselle. She was then born and she was a pretty chilled out baby. You know, she did all the things that babies do, but it was all pretty straightforward. And I went on my merry way of having 1 child. And I kind of was very kind to myself having Giselle, and didn't put too much pressure on myself. Then, you know, I got pregnant with Florence. Again, I had a really easy pregnancy. I even went overseas for 5 weeks with a toddler and being pregnant, which was very interesting. But
very interesting.
You know, very interesting. It had its moments, but we got through it. I got married in that time. I was actually pregnant at my wedding, 2 weeks pregnant, which I didn't even realise, which was interesting. I probably should have called Florence Martini, considering how many I had that night, but that's okay. I didn't actually realise I was pregnant. Had another really beautiful pregnancy with Florence. Went into this pregnancy and went on maternity leave feeling very relaxed, very much going, you know, I've done this before. I've had a baby, I've had a child, and she's been pretty good and fairly chilled out. I've got this, basically. I had a beautiful mother support group, which I had on Facebook, called West Assured Mums, and they were kind of my little village. I lived in Ascot Vale, had my support network around me. Then we bought a house in Lara just before we had Florence. So I was now moving from my support network, but that was okay because I could kind of make friends easily. Then Florence, you know, Florence was coming along. It was what they called a little bit of a traumatic birth, I guess, in their words, because Florence was posterior, so they had to take her out with the suction cup. I guess that was kind of the beginning of my journey of going, wow, I'm going from 1 to 2. So Florence entered the world and, you know, she came out naturally in the end. I don't know how. They thought they would have to take me to surgery, but she ended up coming out naturally. So then my journey began from 1 to 2. So come home like we always do. I had the toddler, I had the baby, and, you know, 1 day in, 2 days in, 3 days in, it's all okay. And then it really started hitting me. Florence wasn't sleeping at all. She was crying all the time. I couldn't put her down. You know, the toddler's still running around. I'm sitting here going, okay, I've got this. It's the first week, you know, give it a couple of weeks. You know, 2-3 weeks went on. Florence is screaming. She's feeding off me every hour, on the hour, around the clock. I kid you not, that child was feeding off me so constantly. And I was so tired. And I would be having breakdowns at 3 a.m. in the morning, saying to my husband, what is going on here? What am I doing wrong? I can't understand why this baby is not settled. Why isn't she like Giselle? Why isn't she like my first baby who was fairly chilled out? And then all of a sudden I was falling into a little bit of a heap. I was living in Lara, which is the outer Geelong. I didn't have my support network that I had immediately in Lara. I couldn't just walk up the street and go for a coffee. Instead, I was sitting in these four walls going, I have nobody here right now. I don't have my mum. I don't have my mother-in-law. I'm just sitting here trying to comfort this baby, and I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know why she's crying so much. You know, why isn't she like Giselle? And I was having a really tough time, and I guess that I didn't go into it thinking that, you know, this baby may be different. Florence may be different to Giselle. She may be a completely different baby. I went into it thinking, you know, I'm maternal. I've got this. You know, I've done babysitting since I was 11 years old. One child, surely I've done it before. 2 children will be okay. But I guess it just wasn't. So, you know, the weeks went on and I kind of tried to fight through this all, and I started to build a support network, I guess, in Lara. I started to reach out. You know, one of my experiences that I had was, you know, I was so completely sleep deprived. I really don't know how I functioned at most times. Like when I had Giselle, I was tired.
Yeah.
It was fine. You know, we get that as a new mum, but this was completely different. I literally was not sleeping at all, because by the time Florence would wake up in the middle of the night, I'd feed her, put her down, she'd wake up again screaming. And one day I went...
The hardest thing from having one, because you can actually sleep in the day. When you've got the first baby, you can sleep while they're sleeping. I know, well, I find it easier to sleep in the day anyways. But when you've got another baby to look after and they're feeding constantly, and you've got an emotional toddler who needs constant support, who wakes up and, you know, needs you to be there, and then you've got to be up all hours of the night as well, that's a huge shock to the system, from that having the one to having 2. And I guess because you had such an easygoing baby, like a textbook baby by the sounds of it, which is what happened to me as well, it's a bit of a surprise and a bit of a shock when, you know, you've then got to look after 2 of them, and I just don't think that there's enough awareness or, you know, conversation around the changes and how it can be as well.
That's exactly right. And that's right. The toddler, you know, Giselle, she was just on 3. And although she understood what I was asking of her, she still needed me. You know, when Florence did eventually sleep during the day, you know, Giselle still wanted to, you know, have her time with me. And I had to be really kind to her and give her my time no matter how tired I was. You know, I still had to make an effort with her and not make her think that I'm neglecting her. I actually wrote a little bit of a post the other day about how many times I've said to Giselle in the last 4 months, I just need to feed Florence. I just need to go put Florence to sleep. I just need to give Florence a bath. And I've become so aware of that and really trying to not do that. I just, you know, keep saying that to Giselle. And I just catch myself out so many times, and it just goes to show that I'm trying to look after this little baby, and I guess sometimes I am neglecting the toddler. So I'm really conscious of being able to not do that, and give the time I need to give to Giselle. You know, thankfully, we're coming out on the other side of Florence. She did have reflux in the end. So it really was something that, you know, had to be diagnosed, I guess. And that was my answer in the end as to why she was being this really needy baby. And it wasn't her fault. You know, she had this reflux and we've sorted that out. And now she is a pretty chilled out baby, thankfully. But, you know, it took me 4 months to get to that. And I guess if I was to have my time again, I would really prepare myself during my pregnancy to think, you know what, this baby may not be like my first or may not be like my second. I need to prepare myself for whatever this baby may be. You know, she may not be a good sleeper, or he or she, you know, may be a really needed baby, or it could be a really good baby. You know, I just think I needed to be a little bit more prepared that she was going to be different to Giselle. That it was going to be harder. And I didn't do that. I just went into it thinking, I've done it before. That's okay. It'll be just as easy, if not easier. And we'll be on our merry way and having a baby and a toddler. And it just wasn't like that at the start.
It's almost like, you know, because we're always looking back in our experiences. So we're just assuming that we're going to have another similar experience. We're going to have a similar birth, similar pregnancy, and you kind of like, if you have a similar pregnancy and everything's going well, then you kind of get tripped up and you're like, okay, well, this is, you know, this is similar, I've done this before. And then you get to the next stage, you're like, yeah, I've done this before, it's all good. But I think the true thing is what you've said. It's like every part, every step is totally different. And this is what I hear from midwives and that in births groups talking about, is that every single pregnancy, every single birth is different. It's just that we didn't get to the every single baby part is different as well, and the circumstances and, you know.
Absolutely. And I think as well, you know, our minds are trained to forget as well what a baby is actually like. Like, I don't know about everybody else, but, you know, I've forgotten so many stages, and I've forgot the way that the baby wakes up every few hours, and, you know, that how much they need you. Your brain is really trained to forget that, because by the time you have a 2-year-old, you don't remember. And I reckon if you did remember, you wouldn't go back and have more kids.
I know.
So that's probably why we forget. And, you know, you just go into this shock of like, oh, wow, like this is what it's like. Like, I've totally forgotten these little stages, you know, these little noises, and, you know, you forget about all that. So as well as trying to nurture this baby and nurture the toddler, you're trying to get your mind going and thinking, oh, wow, that's right, this is what happens. So this is this stage and this is that stage. You know, I had a moment with Florence that I walked into a local cafe one day and I was meeting another mum. So she was just a mum that I'd kind of met since I've moved here. So I didn't know her really well, but I literally walked in with the pram. I stood there. The owner of the cafe came up to me and she said, "Are you okay, darling?" And I just burst into tears right there in the middle of the cafe. I burst into tears and I said, "No, I'm not okay." And she took Florence off my hands, and I went and sat down with this mum that I'd just gotten to know, and we were both sitting there crying because she was also having a little bit of a tough time with her little one. And, you know, if back in Giselle days, I would never ever have done that. It's just not really in me. I wouldn't just break down in the middle of a cafe, but I did that day. And, you know, I then stopped there and thought, you know what, maybe I do need to reach out a little bit more. And the lovely owner of the cafe was walking around with Florence for about half an hour and they offered me coffee. And I was okay when I walked out. I just, at that point, I was so tired and so sleep deprived. And I just thought, you know, no, right now I'm not okay, but I will be okay. You know, a lot of people approach me, I guess, you know, going down the postnatal depression and do I have that? No, I don't think I did. I'm very in touch with my emotions. I think I was just extremely exhausted and, you know, didn't really know how to deal with a reflux baby and a baby that wanted to comfort feed off me every hour around the clock. So I don't think I was going down that path. But had I not been in touch with my emotions and had I not been kind to myself and sort of built my support network in this new area that I was living, then maybe I would have gone down that path and not wanted to leave my house and all that kind of thing. So I was very grateful that I could see where I was at And of course, very grateful that Florence actually came out of it on the other side, and now she's a very good baby.
Yeah, I think like even with what you're saying about Florence, with her feeding every hour and that and waking up and all that, that's quite normal for a newborn baby anyways, without the reflux, which just makes it all the more challenging when you've got another child to look after and you're awake. But you know, and then the sleep deprivation, basically, when I had the sleep deprivation, I was questioning every day, do I have depression? And then I realized, like, I was Googling and I was researching because I'd never been through this before. I used to have an abundance of sleep. I used to sleep on the weekends and do what the hell I wanted to do. And, you know, that's why sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture. It's actually torture people because it's really bad. It's just
horrible.
Stuffs your mind up so much, and you know, it can push you right over the edge, I reckon. And I just don't think people talk about it enough. And it's just not acceptable to have to accept it and just say, well, this is just what life is. No, it's not what life is. I think the next step is, like you're saying, you know, asking for help, recognizing, being aware, trying to source where you can get that support and that from. So you obviously had that awareness. So what did you then do once you had that awareness? What did you do to make your life a little bit, you know, easier and get that support that you needed?
Yeah, look, I mean, I had a very supportive husband who first and foremost was always there to go, you know, I'll do the nighttime. But, you know, I think as mums, you get in this, no, I'll do it, I can do the night. And, you know, we think we're superheroes and we just keep on going through. But thankfully, he would entertain and look after Giselle when needed. And that was a huge support for me. You know, there were days that he would go behind my back and ring my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law and say, can you go and see Luke? Because he really was worried about me. Now, he never ever had to do that with Giselle, you know, but he'd be like, can you just drive over to Lou's house and see if she's okay and just give her some company. So, you know, I had that support and I had my friends in Melbourne, but they weren't immediate. So what I had to do is I had to reach out to these new mums in my new area in Geelong. I just had to go through Facebook. There was beautiful little groups created there. And I just, thankfully I can get up and go out and talk to anyone. But even for me in the moment of that peak time of Florence being really hard, even I didn't want to just reach out to anyone, because I was just so tired. I could not even be bothered talking to new people. However, once she kind of was coming out of it, I did reach out. So now where I've moved to, I do have a really beautiful network. I have a really beautiful network of mums and their children who have been new to the area in the past 2 years as well. And we can now lean on each other. So I now have people immediately that I can call and say, can we go for a coffee? Can you come and watch Florence? Can I come over and cry on your shoulder because I've had a really shit day today? And I have to drive 5 minutes down the road and off I go and I'm there with them. And we've created a really, we've created.
That's amazing, to be honest with you, because I'm not that kind of person, and that would actually really scare the life out of me. So you've had a baby 4 months ago, and in that time you've made friends with people that you can go over and, you know, cry and have a coffee, you know, just at last minute. How did you actually, just for viewers, because I know a lot of women who have a bit of anxiety around going out there and putting themselves out to be vulnerable or feeling judged. Can you give us a few little steps or a few little tips or what you've done to open yourself up and, you know, create those relationships so quickly?
Yeah, so I'm a really big believer in the power of social media. I have a love-hate relationship, and I think sometimes it's a terrible thing, social media, but sometimes it's a really beautiful thing. So I joined these groups and I just started chatting to these mums. So, you know, every mum that I've met here has been through Facebook. It's been through a Facebook group, which I think is a wonderful thing. And I'm a very big advocate for Facebook because I have groups on there myself that I run, that I've created beautiful relationships with. So, you know, what I did is I spoke to these mums, these new mums through Facebook, and you know, we've had meetups at the local cafe where I broke down and cried. So it's a good place to be because there's mums everywhere. So that's a really good start to do it that way. You know, maybe if you're in the park going for a walk with your children, maybe you just speak to the mum next to you and say hello, because you never know what you have in common, and you never know how anxious that mum may be besides you. You know, she may be just as anxious as you to talk to you. So, you know, just say, how's your day going? You know, what a beautiful day it is. Or, you know, your two kids might be interacting, so it might open up a conversation, and you just never know where that conversation is going to lead, because you just don't know where they're at in their time, and maybe they need someone to talk to as well, and it could be the start of something really beautiful. So, you know, I would do that, you know, just if you can. You know, it might be such a hard step for you to talk to the mum next to you in the park, but you just never know by saying hello what you might get out of it. And that anxiety may just clear straight away. Talking to the new mum that I met that day I broke down in the cafe, we really have formed a beautiful friendship, because right at that point we were both so vulnerable and we were both crying with each other, that we thought this has just created something really special. And I did not know her from a bar of soap, and now she's almost, you know, she's someone that's going to be my friend for a very long time. So, you know, do that kind of thing. I guess, you know, the thing that I had to do was just put myself out there. I couldn't stay at home in these four walls in the state that I was in. I had to pick up my two children, and I had to get out there, whether it was just sitting in a cafe with the two of them having a coffee. I just had to put myself out there, because that would just make me, I mean, I'm a very confident person, so I like I said, I didn't have any troubles, but if I was to have troubles, I would just make sure I step outside my house. I think the more you stay inside, you know, sitting here and going, oh gosh, what am I going to do entertaining these two kids, and what am I going to do now, the harder it becomes. So putting myself out there was probably one of the best things I could have done.
And you said before that you had some, like, if you knew before you had your baby, if you just knew that, you know, your baby is going to be different, and, you know, it's going to be a different experience, that you would have set yourself up a little bit differently. What do you think that you would have done, or what would you recommend for a mother who's pregnant now with her second baby and she's about to take that journey? What would you recommend for her to sort of look at setting up?
Yeah, look, I probably first of all would prepare myself mentally for going, this baby may not be as chilled out as my next baby. This baby may not sleep very well. This, you know, whatever it may be, this could be hard. You know, this might be hard. You know, I never said that to myself. I never said this could be hard. I just thought I'd go in kind of going, this is going to be easy. I've done it before. So I would have first of all mentally prepared myself for that, you know, things will be different and it might be hard. It's not going to be easy. I would also make sure that I have that support network behind me, be it my family, be it my friends. You know, like I said, in my situation, I moved to a new area where I had no friends. So before the baby came along, I would have probably nurtured those friendships. You know, so when the baby comes, they're there straight away, because I was within 4 months I created that. But initially, I didn't have that. I didn't have anyone initially. So, yeah, I definitely prepare myself to think that this is going to be hard. And then, you know, if you get an easy baby, fantastic. If it's easy ride, then you've prepared yourself for the worst anyway. So it's only going to get better from there. And then secondly, I would just nurture and create that village. You know, we throw that around a lot, that we all need a village to raise these children. And, oh, my gosh, I'm a huge believer in that. Huge believer that you need these women behind you. You need these mothers. And it is just crazy what mums will do for other mums who don't even know each other. It's a really, really beautiful thing. And I'm sure you see it all the time through your beautiful network. But it is just something that we will do for each other, because we know how shit days can be, and we know that we can get really, really low. And if we didn't have each other, then I'm not sure quite how we would survive.
I think that's very true. I see, you know, mums are always connecting and supporting each other, whether it's, you know, lending or giving baby equipment, or going around with some food, or, you know, just listening to someone and, you know, saying, I've been there.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think also with our hormones and what we've just gone through, we're sort of like, really attuned to be in that nurturing, caring space as well. And we've got these extra senses and abilities. Super mums.
And it's true. And I like what you say there about giving. And, you know, I've just done a whole big clean out. And, you know, I could sit there on Marketplace or Gumtree and I could sell, you know, my spare baby stuff for $10 or $20. But instead what I did is I posted onto the local page. I said free baby items in excellent condition, and that's what I've just done this morning. I've driven around and I've given out some free baby items for a mum that may need it. You know, so you know what I don't need, they will need, and you know they're so very grateful for that. And yeah, we just have to look after each other. You know, we have to look out for one another. Being a mum is really, really tough. You know, being a mum of one, a first-time mum, is really hard. Being a mum of two is even harder. And God help me if you have a third. Like I can't even imagine. They say it gets easier though. So we'll see how it goes.
I know everyone has such a different view as well. Everyone's experience is so different. So you might speak to a mother who says, you know, they have a harder baby first and then they have an easier baby second. So for them, the transition's like totally fine because their second baby's a dream baby. And then you've got the mothers who have the opposite, and then the third baby's like really hard. And then some women are like, once you've had two, they all just slip in. So it's just the matter of, you know, what's happening and how the babies are, and you know it's just so you just don't know what you're going to get, a mixed bag of chocolates, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen.
That's right.
I know, it's just really interesting. So basically it's a lucky dip, so we'll just have to see if you have a third one, see what happens then.
I'll talk to you then if I have a third. We'll see how much hair I have left that's not right.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on, Louise. I really appreciate you sharing your journey and from 1 to 2 and taking the time to, you know, step outside motherhood for a few moments for us, especially when your baby's only 4 months old. I really appreciate you doing that for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, and you know, good on you for everything you're doing, and for everyone listening, you know, you're all doing an amazing job. So, you know, keep supporting each other. Keep reaching out. This is not a journey that you're on alone. You know, there's, you know, every second person you see is a mum. So make sure you all support each other and reach out and keep doing an amazing job.
And you're doing an amazing job too, Louise. I want to let you know. And I saw that you had an event, like, was it last week? Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you do? Because you're bloody amazing.
So, you know, on top of all of it, I decided to put on a major event, which is, so I don't know how I pulled the event off, but you know, in short, I also run a charity. It's called Friend in Me. So basically, we run social inclusion events for children who may feel lonely or isolated or have been bullied and may not have been to a party before or an event. So we actually just had our major event at the end of March, and we had over 2,000 people come. Wow. So I was so very grateful. Yeah, it was just a really beautiful event, full of beautiful smiles and full of children who, you know, could all be equal. They could all be part of something really unique. So our movement is that no child is left behind. So as well as being a mum and, you know, being a wife, I'm also really passionate about growing my charity to make sure no child is left behind and keep creating these memorable events. So on top of Florence being a really difficult baby, I managed to pull this off with a really beautiful team behind me. But like I say all the time, I did my best work at 2 a.m. when I was breastfeeding. So that's when I was replying to my emails, and that's when all my ideas came about. So very, very proud of where that's heading, and thankfully, you know, Florence is behaving a little bit more now, so I can really, really work on that and help that grow. So very exciting things coming.
I'll put the links up so, you know, our mothers who are viewing can actually click on and get that support for their children and spread the message as well.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Awesome, Louise. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks for watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. our mailing list, and follow us in our social channels so you never miss an episode. All our details are listed in the description box in YouTube. I look forward to bringing you another great episode next week. Welcome to our circle of support, Mama, with the Motherhood Circle. See you next week. With love, Ashley. Thanks for watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, our mailing list, and follow us in our social channels so you never miss an episode. All our details are listed in the description box in YouTube. I look forward to bringing you another great episode next week. Welcome to our circle of support, Mama, with the Motherhood Circle. See you next week. With love, Ashley.